Hi, it's Paul Andersen, and this is my first attempt at a video blog. And in this video blog, I'm going to talk about my year. I'm just finishing up my year as Montana Teacher of the Year, and so I thought it would be a great time to reflect on people I met and things I learned. First person I didn't meet was Steve Jobs, and I'm sad that he's not around anymore. He was interviewed earlier in his career, and the interviewer asked him, you've put more computers in classrooms than any other person on our planet. Do you think technology will eventually replace teachers? And Steve said, of course not. The most important thing is a person who incites your curiosity, feeds your curiosity, and machines cannot do that the same way that people can. And that's something I'm learning in my class this year. The more you use technology, the more you flip your classroom, the more you move away from that sage on the stage, the more important you become, and it makes your teaching harder. And so I don't think we're ever going to lose teachers. I think they'll become more and more valuable, but their job is going to get harder and harder over time. So I want to talk about people I met this year. The first person is not somebody I met. This is my wife, Laura. We are in Washington, D.C., and we've been married almost 20 years. But I did discover something new about her this year and over the last few years, and that is that she's an incredibly supportive person. When you have success, your spouse can treat that in two ways. They can be upset that you're always gone, or they can be supportive, and that's the kind of spouse that she is. And so it's been an amazing year, and so I'm happy that I was able to share some of that with Laura. Next person I met was a teacher. This is Brad Schonk, first teacher I met, and he's the Teacher of the Year from Mississippi. He's from Biloxi, and an elementary teacher there. His school was taken out by Hurricane Katrina, and so the thing I learned from Brad is how important community is, because it was the community that rebuilt that area. It wasn't the Red Cross, it was people getting together. And so Brad taught me the importance of community, the importance of persistence, and the importance of being a good teacher. And I met great teachers across the country. Next person I met that had an influence on me was Dr. Jill Biden. You may not know who she is, but she is married to Joe Biden. So she's married to the vice president. She is a teacher at a community college in Delaware. And I got a second to talk to her. We talked for a few minutes, and what we talked about was the importance of failure in your life and how you can learn from failure, and failure is not necessarily a bad thing. A funny story she told me is that she said that a lot of the kids in her community college didn't even know who she was, that she was famous, and they didn't understand why there were Secret Service agents sitting in front of the class. Next teacher that impressed me a lot was Matinga. She's the Teacher of the Year from Michigan. The thing I learned from Matinga, well, a number of things I learned. Number one is that she's always willing to say what she believes, and I think that's super important. She also has embraced technology. I love this picture. She's showing how kids, technology has become a part of their life, and so we're silly if we don't embrace that. This year she's taken the year off, and she's helping to build a school in Africa, which is pretty cool. Next person I met is Randy Weingarten. If you've seen the movie Waiting for Superman, it kind of paints a bad picture of education right now, that unions are killing it and teachers are getting paid too much, and she's really the villain in the movie. And so when I got to talk to her in Washington, D.C., I found that she's not a villain at all. She's really passionate. She's incredibly intelligent. She was a history teacher in New York City. And she's learned from, I'm sure, being vilified and having to come back to work. And she impressed me as a professional. And it was fun to get to meet her. Next people I met this year were some of my friends. I went to the educational conference this year. It's our state conference. And I got to meet some of my good old friends, my science teachers. This is them dropping a magnet through a copper pipe. And it creates current, which then creates a magnetic field, which opposes the gravity of the magnet. I think that's just awesome. And so I found that spending time with other science teachers just kind of got me charged up this year. I also discovered that I can be brave. We had to dress up at space camp when we went there as a famous person from our state, and so I went as Evel Knievel. If you don't know who that is, you could Google it. He used to drive a motorcycle off buildings and over jumps and tried to, I think, jump the Grand Canyon. And so my wife made this costume for me. This is me sitting on a couch because I can't really see if I don't have my glasses on, so I put these sunglasses on, but I kind of embraced my inner rock star, I think, with this costume. It taught me to stand out there and be brave. This is a teacher I met a few years ago. Her name is Raisa Richards. She's from the Ukraine. She was an engineer in former Soviet Union, came here, and she's a math teacher in Montana. Really bright, incredibly bright. And she's teaching at Browning High School, which is on the reservation. It's a really tough school. They have high poverty rates, high dropout rates. And so when I talked to her this year, she told me how important it is to be there for those kids. And so I'm always impressed by teachers who are able to have success in tough situations. Another teacher like that is Ryan Vernosh. He's the Teacher of the Year from Minnesota, and he's right in the middle of this picture. This is when we were in Washington, D.C. He teaches in a school in St. Paul where it's high poverty, high minority, just a tough place to be. But he'll do this affirmation. I'll put the video in here.
I am somebody.
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 Stay right here. We say those every day because those are important words. They carry meaning for our community. You are somebody.
And so you can see that Ryan is an incredible teacher, but he's also politically savvy. He understands that if you want to make change in education, you can't just be a teacher, you have to stand out there. And so right here he's talking with Darren Curtis, who's the Teacher of the Year from California, and this is Scott Palmer, who works for a think tank in Washington, D.C. And the thing I found when we went to Washington, D.C. is that the people who are making decisions about education are not teachers. They really don't understand what's going on in the classroom, which is a little scary, and they're always ready to listen to what you have to say. And so I think teachers have to start sharing what they're doing in their classroom with people who make decisions, because a lot of the decisions that are being made don't help us at all. Next person I met was Bob. Bob is the Teacher of the Year from Missouri, and I was getting ready to go meet President Obama in the White House. I was excited, and all of a sudden I met Bob in the elevator. We're both science teachers, so we were talking about some of our favorite demonstrations. This one here is the methane mamba. What you do is you bubble methane gas through water and soap, and you get this giant column of soap bubbles that you can light, and you get this huge ball of fire. It's really impressive to kids. They love this one. And so I was telling him about that, and he said, I actually invented that. I was tinkering around in my lab, and he came up with the methane mamba. And so I went from being so excited to meet the president and to not really being excited about that at all. I got to meet Bob, the inventor of the methane mamba. And we connected. He teaches chemistry. He's a wonderful teacher, and he started making some podcasts. And so I think I was able to help him a little bit. And he's trying to flip the classroom as well this year. This is Matthias, the Teacher of the Year from Holland. And then this is Michael from Austria and Lisa from Norway. And so I got to meet really good teachers from Europe. And what I found is that what's going on in Europe is the same as what's going on here as far as education goes. There's an increase in high-stakes testing, accountability, that we're going to have performance-based pay for teachers. And so the one country that is different than that is Finland. And they talked about Finland as well. Finland, about 30 years ago, made an investment in education and technology. And so it's taken them that long to find success, and it stands out from other countries. And I think we could learn things from Finland, but the first thing we have to learn is the importance of education to a society. I got to meet the president, and so I got to go into the Oval Office. I don't normally get excited, but when I walked into the Oval Office, I was kind of swept up in just the history of the place, and Mr. Obama is very charismatic as well. We talked about fishing. I think I made him laugh at one point. I'm sure he would not remember any of this. But I just felt proud to go to the Capitol and proud to be an American and representing Montana. And so it was a neat kind of a capstone. I also learned humility this year. I learned that I'm really not that great. This is me speaking in a small town in Montana, and I was speaking, and right before I started, this bird, a magpie, flew in. So as I would talk, it would kind of fly around, and the teachers were trying to listen, but I'm sure it's really, really hard. I also learned humility in places that I stayed. I burnt myself in the shower. I froze myself in the shower. So places like this, I don't even know where to start in a shower like that. And so I did a lot of travel, and that is, it always makes you feel happy to go home. I also felt humility on the national level. I was one of 4 finalists for National Teacher of the Year, so I put a lot of time into that. And I went and interviewed in Washington, D.C., and finally got the call, and I didn't win. And so this is who won. This is Michelle Shear, a teacher, AP chemistry teacher from Maryland. She's an incredibly gifted teacher, and she's doing a great job as National Teacher of the Year. But we were in the White House, And they asked some of us to go to the back because they were going to ask us some questions. The press was back there. And so it took me a few minutes to realize that nobody really wanted to ask me questions at all. And so when you put yourself out there, you can have amazing success, but you also are going to have real public failure. And so I'm not National Teacher of the Year, but that means that if I can learn from that, I can become a better teacher. And what I learned is that I didn't spend this year out giving speeches around the country. I spent this year in my class. And so these are the students in my AP Biology class this year. So I'm so happy to get back in the classroom. I was just excited this fall to try out some new things. You can see that the kids are using iPads, that I'm not really lecturing in the front of the room, that we can have these really cool discussions in class. And so lots of times when you experience failure, it's going to open up other things in your life. So in summary, I've learned a few things this year, and some of it comes from being Teacher of the Year, but a lot of it comes from things I've learned online at YouTube and feedback from YouTube. The first thing I've learned is that the world is small, and so lectures that I give today will be viewed by, it's the middle of the week, so I might have my videos viewed 12,000 times today by students around the world. And so what I realize is that the world is a small place. Technology connects us all, and a person just sitting in a room in Montana can have impact around the world. I've also learned that the world is kind. I get so much feedback every day. This is one that stands out. Your videos have reached the hearts of many struggling students all over the world. You take hard concepts, make them easy, and fun ones easy to understand. You're the bomb. And so getting feedback like this every day makes me feel so happy about the job that I'm doing. I'm happy to be a teacher. I've also learned that the world is changing. I've been working with a science teacher in Japan, and he's translating my videos with the AP Biology labs into Japanese. And so I have no idea what this says, but it's exciting to be working with somebody in a different country to help kids who speak a different language. And so the world is changing faster than some of us might like it to. The last thing I've learned is that the world is scary. And so students, I don't think, understand the job market they're headed into. And so if we look at this is in the New York Times, May 19th, 2011. If you graduated in the U.S. in 2009 with a college degree, 22% of you are not working. And so when you hear unemployment rate is at 10%, that is just an average for the whole of the country. And 22% of those graduates from 2009 are working in jobs that don't even require a college degree, so flipping burgers or something like that. And so only 55% of the people have jobs that require college degrees, those that graduated just a few years ago. And so that number, I think 4 years ago, was around 90%. And so our economy has changed, and it's probably changed forever. And so I don't think that students understand how important a good education is, and how important it's going to be that they can learn how to learn, and that they can learn to differentiate themselves from other students. And I think teachers need to start preparing our kids for a world unlike any world that we've ever had. And we do that by empowering them, teaching them to learn independently, and teaching them to use technology to help them. And so that's my year. I met a number of amazing people. I'm very optimistic about education, where it's headed, and thanks for listening, and thanks for all your support.